Community Chronicles Radio, brought to you weekly by Gannon University's Erie Technology Incubator in partnership with the Corey Higher Education Council. The Erie Technology Incubator, located at 900 State Street, works in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and provides technical assistance through the entrepreneurial process. This show features members of this ecosystem and the entrepreneurs in the Erie area. Welcome to Community Chronicles Radio. If you have a question for us or any of the guests that are on today, the number is 814-679-1080. That is 814-679-1080. I am Dr. Matthew Plotz, and with me today, as always, is our brave co-host, Steph Screws. How are you, Steph?
Very good. How are you today, Matt?
Doing well. So it looks like we have a great weekend coming up weather-wise. It's going to be in the 80s with sun and, not too bad with the humidity or anything. So any plans for this weekend?
I don't know if I have a whole lot of plans. Probably just miscellaneous things outside and taking care of different things here and there, but nothing too exciting. How about you?
So this is a weekend that we don't have softball for Madeline, so we're just kind of hanging around the house. A while back we had Dee Caruana on the show, and she talked a little bit about an event she had coming up. The roll-in for veterans. That is this weekend. That got kicked off last night. They're getting set up today, and things really start rolling tonight. But I am volunteering for a good portion of the day tomorrow. So my week off is not necessarily a week off, but it's an important cause, so I'm going to head up there and volunteer. If you don't have plans for the weekend, you should go up to the Erie Sports Center or over at the Harley-Davidson shop on 12th. And check those events out. It's a really great thing, and we're excited to get that going. A while back, I said, Dee, I'll help you however I can, and it snuck right up on us. So,
yeah, that came up quick.
So I want to thank our sponsor, Gannon University's Erie Technology Incubator. With us today is their Director of Entrepreneurial Operations, Brad Gleason. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning. How are you all?
Doing great.
Good.
And one of the board members and an entrepreneur, Sean Michaels. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Matt.
Yes, good morning, Brad and Sean. Good to have you on.
Yeah.
We'll start off by talking with Sean, and can you we'll start off with just telling us a little bit about yourself, Sean.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm an Erie native, born and raised here. I've spent my time as an intrapreneur, an entrepreneur, and an employee, which I am right now. I've been a part of ETI, part of the board for about 2 years now. Time has gone by fast. I can't believe it's already been 2 years, Brad. But it goes fast when you're having fun, right? My whole adult life is really centered around what now they would call like the circular economy or re-commerce. And the way I think about that is getting products back from people or from businesses that still have value to somebody. These are used products, but often they end up in desk drawers or they're destined for the landfill. But somewhere somebody wants them, and that's because these products can be remanufactured, refurbished, resold, sometimes exported to other markets that are a little behind ours. And that's everything I've done has really revolved around those kind of core premises of getting stuff back. So I can tell you a little more of my story if you want. Do you want to dive deeper?
Yeah.
Sure.
Keep it going?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So one of those programs, the one that I kind of most proud of, maybe I guess you'd say, was a thing called Funding Factory, which this goes way back. I mean, this was started in 1998, I guess it was. And what Funding Factory is still today is a fundraising through recycling program for schools and nonprofits. And the way it worked is these organizations are collecting empty printer cartridges, and then later on we added used cell phones, and using the value in those products to create funding for those organizations. And it started as an idea, basically, and then grew to a couple schools. And over time expanded across the country to tens of thousands of organizations collecting millions and millions of these products. And for most of its life, those were coming here to Erie. And then they were supplied to companies who would remanufacture the printer cartridges, or in the case of the cell phones and then later electronics, companies who would refurbish and then remarket those to new consumers, so finding new homes for these things. And, that was just a pretty gratifying thing. And we ended up, meeting with some of these schools, and they would show us the equipment that they were able to get through the program. And kind of the focus of it was on technology, helping these schools get technology items. And I remember going up to a school in Boston, and they walked us through, and they're like, that computer we got through the program, that projector, and just all kinds of stuff. And we're like, wow, this actually worked. I can't believe it. And yeah, so that was a really a fun thing, and I think some good came out of it. But those are the sort of things that I've focused my time on.
Yeah. One question, with printer cartridges, you said they refurbished them. Is there value in that? It obviously does. It created a revenue stream, but so many of the products that we have, it's almost easier for manufacturers a lot of times just to create a new one. It's cheaper for them to do it that way. Is that something that you saw doing this type of work?
Yeah, no doubt. With the printer cartridges, they were a unique product. They had a number of attributes that made this whole thing work. So when you think about the little inkjet cartridges that you probably use in a home printer, although people print less and less these days, but back when we started it, printing was pretty commonplace at home. So those things were pretty high value. If you remember having to buy one, or maybe still for your printer,
you're looking at $60.
Yeah, they're very expensive. And so when they would run out of ink, they could be refilled. They weren't originally designed that way, but some crafty entrepreneurs figured out, like, hey, we can refill these things and resell them. So they met a lot of the criteria that they had good potential aftermarket value. They could be reused. They could be shipped fairly economically. The hard part was that they were widely dispersed. They were in people's homes. They're like, I can't go door to door to get these. That's not going to work economically. So we needed a collection network, as you say. And the schools provided that just inherently. They had the communication network with the parents and students, and they had an aggregation component where these things could be brought into the schools and then shipped from there. So that turned out to work beautifully. And after we started with printer cartridges, we would continually rack our brains and say, what else can we plug into this system?
Right.
Perfect.
And it was so hard to think of things that met those same kind of criteria. And then when cell phones kind of became more commonplace, those seemed to fit pretty well for a time, until they got to the point where they were so expensive, and there were other avenues for people to, trade in their cell phone, that it was less and less likely that you would donate it to your school. But there was a time where we did pretty well for those. And we tried all kinds of other things. We used band equipment for a while, and that was bulky and hard to ship and didn't work out so well. But we did rack our brains. Like, what else can we,
there's a lot out there.
with?
Yeah.
It's really neat. Like, you take all these items that people would normally, just throw away, repurposing them, or would you call it even maybe recycling them? Or, like I said, with the printer cartridges, instead of people, throwing them out, it's more of like putting, I guess you just, like I said, it's more repurposing than recycling. But
kind of like recycling would probably be the end of the line for one of these things.
Yeah.
At some point, nobody's going to want it anymore, so it could be recycled and broken down into its component materials. There've been a lot of words to describe this. Like, say, like re-commerce, people call it sometimes, like taking something and instead of e-commerce, it's re-commerce, you're reselling it. But there's not a perfect description for this thing we dreamt up.
So several years ago, there was a program called Cell Phone for Soldiers.
Yeah.
It was very similar. And I always wondered, I at that time I was very involved with the Sons of American Legion, and we were the collection point. So it's kind of the same thing. But I always wondered what the value of those, when you put them in the envelope and ship them out, where they were getting their money and what they did with those phones. So it was always interesting.
Yeah, I know those guys a little bit. I remember that, and yes, similar model. Creating funding through the collection of cell phones. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, one of the things that's sticking with me too, Sean, is just the. I know you said it very simply, but you said all of a sudden you went nationally, right? And you got very busy. And what I love about your contribution to our board is we have board members. Not only do they help us with policy, but we have startups in our incubator that need advisors, and when they get to those scale examples, when they need to go national, now they have somebody like you that goes, I've done that, and here's what you need to be thinking about. And it's great to have a resource like you available to plug in when a startup needs that. We have a couple we need to talk about, actually.
There you go. Yeah, and isn't that part of the, just the value of ETI is it's not just space by any means.
No.
It's being plugged into a system, a support system where you and Kathy do such a great job of mentoring the startups and making connections and finding those people that have been there, done that, to guide them on that journey. And I just think that's so valuable for the startups that are part of ETI.
I really appreciate the compliment, but I would counter that with there's a larger Erie community that is that referral network and support system. We can only do it with a larger group and team of people who are willing to open their doors and give advice, and so Erie is rich with that.
Well, and what's great about that is I do remember in the early days of when we were trying to start some of these things that it's not always super clear how to get plugged into that Erie support system. There's a lot of gateways into it, but to having somebody who knows that and it can point you in the right direction and make those connections, it can just save so much time and just keep you moving. We know the life of a startup can be pretty intense, and all the help you can get, the better.
So often there's somebody that is involved in that ecosystem that has made the mistake that you're about to make and can save you that time.
No doubt.
If you're scaling or any number of things that you're looking to do, there's thought process behind it. So many, there's entrepreneurs I know that got into a retail space, brick and mortar. Well, that isn't always the best fit for every product. And, hearing those stories and understanding where people are coming from and the best way to approach your idea is so important.
Yeah, being a startup, I mention it often, is like a free fall, and you're grabbing any help that you can get. But if you think about a dark room and somebody starting to light up the path, and that's what experts like Sean do, is say, hey, go a little further,
Right.
Go this way. It's not that scary. And there's lots of that going on in Erie right now. Very honored to be part of a bigger system that's churning opportunities, taking ideas and getting them to market or investment. Right?
I know one idea we even just kicked around. I had a beginning of an idea, something that I thought, okay, you look for where the need is, right? There's a huge need in this area for a certain thing. And I said, what do you think about this? And then it was, oh, what about this? And you add these layers. And that's why it's so important in what you do.
And Sean, you have a deep resume. Your first business, your first story actually continues to have a whole bunch of really neat chapters. I don't know if you can share some more about how your business evolved, because you're very interesting and different than most startups.
Yeah, I think I have a kind of an odd resume, honestly.
I would say that because when we were getting ready for show prep, I'm like, tell me about Sean. Where can I find information? And that is one of the things that came out. Okay, yeah, it's going to be a good story.
It's a peculiar story, yeah. Yeah, sure. Before I dive into that, Brad, I was just going to mention one thing you guys said, like somebody mentioned mistakes. And I was thinking, the entrepreneurial journey is filled also with mistakes and failures, frankly. And when you can learn from others, that is very valuable to try and minimize some of them. And I had often joked that when you come on a show like this and you talk about all the successes and how fabulous I am and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of mistakes and failures paving that way for sure. I joked at one point, like in the lobby of our old building here, I said, we should build a shrine of all of the failures that we've done to remind us that this wasn't easy. You try things and some of them just don't work. So back to my unusual path, I guess. So I started out as an employee and became an intrapreneur, I guess, for lack of a better term. And that's how that whole funding factory thing got started. And so I eventually, earned some equity in that business, and it grew. We were located right down kind of the road from where we are in the studio right now. On the East Bay front, we built a facility down there where all these printer cartridges and cell phones were coming into and being processed. About a 72,000 square foot facility down on the Bayfront. It was built in a KOZ at the time. Yeah. And then that building now is owned by UPMC. It was sold along the way. But that was exciting. That business was acquired by one of our biggest customers, and in some ways our biggest competitor. So the way that business functioned was we were recovering these items and then supplying them to the companies who would do the remanufacturing. So a company called Clover, based out of Chicago, acquired that business. They were, at the time, the largest remanufacturer of printer cartridges in the world. And we formed a vital kind of part of their supply chain for them. And that whole, when you think about the commercial aspect of that school program, sourcing the cartridges was the key element. Like the way that business is structured is you couldn't fabricate one from scratch because of all the IP. You needed to get one to remanufacture it, to sell it. And the getting it was the hard part. Like, as you said, these things are in people's homes. There's no easy way to get them.
And so many times they just toss them, right?
Yeah, that would be the most common thing that would happen is why would you do anything else with them? You just throw them out. So we built this network, this collection machine to bring these things back was valuable. So that company was acquired. So I worked there for a while, and there was actually another line of business that we had started, this thing called MaxBack, which was a spin-off of the concept. And what it was a website where we were buying back electronics directly from consumers. So you could go on there, get a quote for your item. If you liked it, send it in to us and be paid in like 3 days. So it's an easy way of getting rid of your old cell phone, your old tablet, whatever it might be. We had started that before Clover acquired us, and then it kind of just, it didn't get much attention after the business was acquired. And I said to those guys, after working there for like 6 years, I said, I think I could turn this into something potentially. And we worked out a deal where I acquired that from them. So I spun that off and ran that as a separate business for about 3 years. And then that business was later then acquired. And I now work for the company that acquired that business. So now I'm back to being an employee again. So,
back and forth.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a lot of twists and turns in the path. But, it's been fun.
I'll tell you, the technology end of life capture is a big thing now, but you were way ahead of your time when you were doing that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, not trying to toot our own horn or whatever, but nobody thought of like this at those times. Yeah. Especially like for a school to be collecting this stuff was just something that had never been done. I mean, they sold candy and subs and things.
That's oranges. I sold oranges.
So the fact that they even could grasp this as an idea was remarkable. And like a lot of things had to happen to make this successful. But what we did find is the schools are very, they're environmentally minded,
right.
The students,
Absolutely.
and they want to do things that are good for the environment. and they're very good at communicating back home to the parents and to the students, and they're very organized, and like they were kind of the perfect audience to do this, which was truly happenstance. I mean, just the stars kind of aligned on some of these things.
Well, I think too the school's financial options are very structured, and now you're a new opportunity that showed up, and they're like, "Wait, this is new money. Could be a new opportunity to improve the financial footprint or condition of the school." You were probably more welcome than you thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there was one twist that also helped with the directing of the financial proceeds from this. Is we used a point system, so each cartridge was worth a point, or a number of points, depending on the actual market value of them. And then the schools could use those points and get what they wanted out of this online catalog that we had. And that actually kind of opened up the door to whoever was running the program to self-direct those funds within the school. Because if we would have sent them a check, it would have to go in the normal budgetary process.
Oh, okay.
And they might have been collecting to get a new computer or multiple new computers, and that money might have went to resurface the gym floor or something.
Right.
You know? So having these points, they kind of operated under the radar, and that was also another thing that I think helped grow the program.
Yeah, I'm picturing a bunch of young people at schools just printing off mom and dad's printer until they use up the ink.
Yeah. kind of like that
You give them
Seinfeld bit
incentive.
where they're recycling the bottles. It's kind of, they're drinking all this stuff to fill the truck to go recycle.
Oh, yeah, Kramer had that idea. Yeah, right.
But, we like to focus a little bit on the good that's done with entrepreneurs on the show and, how you've made life better. I'm looking at the Funding Factory webpage right now. I understand it's not your thing, but you got the idea started. Over 20 years, they're looking at $33.5 million in revenue to the participants, and they've taken 43.3 million pounds out of the landfills. So,
Wow.
great
I know.
idea.
It's
Yeah.
when you see those numbers, it's like I can't believe it. It really
awesome.
was just an idea, and the idea took on a life of its own, really. And, yeah.
Well, the one thing, and I'm just reading into your personality, and of course I'm doing it on air, but the fun part here is you don't seem to have a fear factor. It's almost kind of the entrepreneurial path is kind of your playground, the way I'm sensing it, and that might be an extra lesson to kind of hang up on the wall, is put the fear on the shelf and just explore the idea and see where it goes. Mistakes known that you're going to make lots of mistakes, but you seem to be embracing the exploration of your business idea the way you talk about it, and that I'm taking away from that that's a nice persona when you're going down the startup journey, is to forget about the fear.
I think that's a good observation, Brad. I mean, the fear is definitely there. There's no denying it. Right? But yeah, I think you almost have to just put on the blinders sometimes. Just like, we're just going to try this. We're going to keep going. It may not end up exactly the way you thought it was going to. But if you listen to everybody that tells you it's not going to work, and what
Right.
about this and what about that, you'll probably never get anywhere. You almost have to just put your head down and just do it.
Just explore.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's great.
It's a great story.
So we are coming up on the bottom half of the hour on the news break. But if you guys would like to hang around, we have another entrepreneur coming on, Rachel McCreary. Kind of helps the conversation if you hang out. All of you are listening to Community Chronicles Radio on 103.3 FM, 105.9 FM, and 1530 AM. And as always, through the Corey Higher Education Council Facebook page, or on talkerie.com, you can hit that listen live button that I like every day at 3 o'clock when I'm at my desk. If you have a question for any of us here, you can call the in-studio number, 814-679-1080. Coming up after the break, we have Rachel McCreary. She has an idea, private venture where she has started to revitalize part of the city. So we're excited to have her on, and we will be back after the news. Welcome back to Community Chronicles Radio, brought to you weekly by Gannon University's Erie Technology Incubator, in partnership with the Corey Higher Education Council. The Erie Technology Incubator, located at 900 State Street, works in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and provides technical assistance through the entrepreneurial process. This show features members of this ecosystem and the entrepreneurs in the Erie area. I want to thank both Brad and Sean for sharing their contributions to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. But I want to introduce our guest for the second half of the show, and I'm very excited to introduce this guest. There's a connection personally coming up, so we're excited to have her. Welcome to the show, Rachel McCreary. Rachel, alongside her husband, Patrick, are the driving force behind the shop at 19th and Chestnut. Good morning, Rachel.
Yes, good morning, Rachel.
Is she on?
Do we have Rachel?
No, Rachel?
She was here.
Is she gone?
She's still there.
Oh, the internet. Probably, buffering and not getting the feed. This is why I had you stick around.
Yeah, we'll just have to go back to Sean.
You
and,
never know. If Rachel comes back on the show, we'll circle back to that. But the connection that we have, I am getting married on September 14th, and the whole ceremony and the whole production is taking place at the shops at 19th and Chestnut. And Rachel has done amazing work over there. If you haven't seen it, it used to be Erie Bronze and Aluminum, and a lot of businesses in several cities like ours have started to refurbish and reuse some of the old industrial factory space, and they've created beautiful places out of these. You see it at a lot of big cities where we go, Columbus, we've been to Asheville, North Carolina. There's always this reuse of the factories that are no longer in business. So that thing is very cool. I guess as we wait for Rachel to hopefully jump on, where have you guys seen that idea playing out in a very good way in several? And one of the things that frequently happens is that the government or an arm of the government takes care of that part of it, but the importance of private business doing some of the revitalization.
Yeah, I'll tell you that there, especially first of all in the wedding space, you've seen a lot of barn weddings that's taking off, but the urban element, it's got a steampunk to it, right? But
Right.
it's also
Yeah.
the repurposing. I've had the luxury of being able to raise funds to build buildings and to renovate buildings in the first half of my life, and the urban application. My favorite project was actually Habitat for Humanity's Restore on Parade Street. Was an important project, I felt, to kind of shore up the particular area and some crime that was going on there, and turn it into a place that had lots of activity and repurposing home materials. When people would take items out of a home, deconstruct, they would be able to bring doors and other devices in. And so I think that there's a lot of beauty to repurposing smaller warehouses and larger warehouses for uses like that.
That's great. Well, I was just told by producer Joel that Rachel is now on, so we're going to get her
Great.
story about that. Good morning, Rachel.
Yay.
Well,
Good morning, Rachel.
She was there.
the beauty of live radio.
Like, Rachel, are you there?
Could it be you're on mute? One of those.
Oh yeah, that's happened to
I'm
me.
mute on Zoom, but-
Oh, live radio, goodness.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the urban renewal, a lot of warehouses now, as long as they pass the contamination test, right?
Right,
Make sure
that's
it's not a hot spot of any
That's a
kind.
big part of it. The brownfields getting
They're
it.
they're really becoming housing. They're rebuilding it on the inside, putting a framework and architecture inside of a box. And the box is an old manufacturing plant. And I live in one of those, for example, when I'm not in Erie, and that's the movement. Instead of having to tear down and build back up, use what you have. And very popular construction design now is to put a building within a building, and I love the idea of using that for a gathering purpose. I think that's it's a special moment, obviously.
Right.
Congratulations,
What-
Matthew.
We're working on it down in Corey, but there are people that that have done it, and I'm kind of following that path. I actually have a meeting over at ECAT right after this show. And that is a beautiful example of taking an old school and modernizing it and using it for a different reason, but almost the same reason. So it's an exciting thing. After our show, we have Leith Wardy and Tina Mangine, who's working on EMI, and that's a beautiful example of that. So it's one of those things where she had to take down part of the building. It was just unusable, but they kept part of it. And I'm excited to see what they're doing. She mentioned on a show a couple weeks ago there's going to be a brewery in there, so that has my attention.
Now you're talking.
The gathering point. So. Well, speaking.
And I have.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go, is she on now?
I think so. Are you there, Rachel?
Oh, okay.
I'm here. This is Rachel. Hopefully, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. So we've been talking about your process and what you've been working on in other parts of the city in other ways. But I guess, Rachel, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Rachel McCreary. I have a background in real estate, both commercial and residential, and community and economic development. I met my husband, Patrick McCreary, by selling him his first income property. So we've always been, it was a 4-unit apartment down by Prep. It was great. We always fix things up together. We like to make things as nice as we have, high standards. We want to make things that we want and we want to enjoy. Everybody has a bad idea of a landlord, and we want to turn that around and make that the best idea of a landlord. So maybe about 2009, I sold McCreary Roofing a larger building. So they were at the shop at 19th and Chestnut for 50 years, or it's 50 years this year. So they bought the building in the 70s and needed to expand. And so about in 2009, I sold them a bigger building on East Avenue, which that's a whole nother situation. Maybe we can talk about in like 3 years. That's another big one. But anyways, back to the shop, McCreary Roofing moved out, but we had this giant warehouse. It was, 27,000 square feet, beat up, rusty, chain link gates, just nothing pretty about it. But there was some, natural historic charm inside. Of course, we have a lot of nostalgia of the guys, all of our employees over the years. So there was never any reason why we wanted to sell the building, but there was every reason why we wanted to start fixing it up. So basically we just chose bay by bay. So there's probably 10 bays, and there's around 2,000 to 4,000 square feet for each one. So we would take one at a time, spend time on it, fix it up. And actually, people started kind of coming to us, and this became a creative environment. We have about 6 small businesses and artists who currently lease space inside the shop. You wouldn't know it driving by. There's not that much signage, but there's production studios. There's, live edge woodworkers. There's 3D graphic art studios, muralists are in there. It's a cool space, but we still have so much more space inside. So how we kind of got started was hosting gallery nights, and we really got into the art scene and artists, and it was fun to host people and to bring artists, even that weren't leasing space from us, but they would come in for a show. And so that's kind of what we've been doing for the first few years. But where we're kind of focusing this last year is I want a place for everyday people to come, not just artists or not just people who are interested in art. And I wanted to focus on kids more, provide a spot where kids can come and have fun. I'm going to the shop every day, and we have 2 little girls, a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I want them to get involved and not dread going to the shop. I wanted them to like coming to the shop. So this last year in February, we opened Presley and Pear, which is an arts and crafts shop. And that's for kids. It's a safe, fun, creative place where you can come in, you can choose what craft you want to make, We help you make it. You can host a birthday party there. It's just starting to take off. It's exciting. And the other part, which I wasn't expecting, but it's just naturally evolved. There are other creative people who are coming to me and they're saying, hey, I'd like to host a workshop. I'd like to host a class. I can crochet or I can show jewelry making. And our newest ones are improv comedy, which there's one coming up next Saturday. There's a workshop for that. And actually, anyone who is interested in learning to dance a little bit more, I just met with a choreographer yesterday, and she's going to start hosting dance classes and couples dance classes specifically for your first dance if you happen to be getting married. So that's exciting.
Man.
Imagine
that.
I got that specially for you.
Yeah, I have a feeling she always listens, so that might come up later.
That's for me. We've had a lot of private events over the last 2 years, everything from baptism celebrations to, a stag and drag or private parties. But we have not had a wedding yet, and we have our first wedding coming up September 14th, and I couldn't be more excited to.
Oh wow, that's the first wedding you're having. Wow.
Yeah, we get to be that couple that gets married the first time. But we just met with Rachel, I think it was last week, and you had mentioned that we're the first, but it's really starting to take off, right?
Yes, we have a few more, but you know how it is in the wedding business. They're calling for next year. It's not right. So they're happening, and it's growing, and it's exciting. So the fact that this, her name is Julie Bartu, and she's a choreographer and dance instructor. So the fact that I just happened to link up with her yesterday is exciting. So things are they all just tend to magically fall into place, and we work hard to create that. And if I see somebody that's intriguing, I'll always reach out to them. I'd rather get 20 no's, than to never ask, So
Right.
Something is always in the works. So we have that coming up. But besides the weddings that are kind of taking off, and besides Presley and Pear, which is an arts and crafts studio, we have big news that we're really excited about. We are working at getting a space ready for Give a Crepe. Owns this cute creperie on Peach Street right now, and she's already in our census tract 19, but she's just going to come into our spot, which is right on Chestnut Street. So we're getting ready for a French cafe, and I couldn't be happier that we're going to have coffee and food every day, open hour. So the shop will become a destination for anybody who wants to come and grab a snack and, check out what we have to offer.
So as you were talking, it looked like Brad had a question teed up.
Well, I love your energy, Rachel, and what you and Patrick are doing is amazing. All the eclectic items going on there. Are you daisy chaining those together in some membership, or are you working in ways to tie those activities together for combined and blended opportunities or events?
The easiest way for me to kind of coordinate everything, including the workshops, and it's on presleyandpear.com is the website. And if you click on there, you can say, oh, I want to host a workshop. You can click on there. Or I want to have my own party there, or I want to have a tour of the shop. So Presley and Pear is kind of spearheading the coordination of everybody and what's going on. But really it's just me and, Pat behind Presley and Pear and the shop. So we're all just doing it all.
Yeah, I think too. There's a lot of ballroom dancing in Erie. That a lot of people don't know that there's just lots and lots of ballroom dancing groups. You've triggered some connections. I hope to make after this call.
Yeah, that's always interesting. I am Polish, and my favorite thing to do in the summer is to go to Zabava and polka dance with Pat. And so we always run into fancy ballroom dancers who come and talk to us. So yes, that would be so fun. I would love it.
I would say that I don't know you well, but how does Pat like dancing? Is he
He's he's so good. I
oh
can't. He's zero Polish. He's completely Irish. And let me tell you, he's the best polka dancer I've ever danced with. He's
oh
great.
that's great. That's great.
Yeah,
So
here.
I can't picture that, but that's
Yeah.
something.
Well, we will go to Zabava together. Okay.
Okay,
This'll be.
we'll do that. I'll have to check which weekend is that.
Oh, it's always like August 23rd or 24th. And, my maiden name is Slomsky. So that's right where the Slomsky funeral used to be, a funeral home, like 23rd and Ash, the Holy Trinity. That's where it's at.
Oh, okay. All right. So I have one question. You mentioned Presley and Pear. How did you come up with that name?
Very simple. It's they're the middle names of my girls.
Oh, I thought it was something like that. But I was going to ask you when we met last week, but then it just kind of slipped my mind.
It's a secret little fact. They're the reason I got started. I mean, I'm always into crafting and creating things, but extra always with the kids. We're always doing
Right.
something.
Yeah. Right.
So Rachel, you're triggering another curiosity with all the activity. I think it needs to be asked, do you still have developable space, or is it all committed at this point?
Do it takes us a long time to do something fully. Whether I'm talking to somebody who wants to move in, it's a lot. It takes a lot to get somebody to come to an industrial place, that's not well known yet. We do have a few spots. I would say in the last 6 months, everything I've been saying is, anyone who comes in, we want it to be open to the public. So if it's a craft studio and you can book hours, or if it's a cafe, or if it's a greenhouse that offers smoothies or something, we want it to be open, not just a private closed studio. So that's the goal, is to invite people in and take a little bit of the mystery away.
Excellent. No, that's exciting that you still have some space for people to come and see how it matches or daisy chains into what you're doing.
Yes.
It is. I would imagine that there might be people listening now that might talk to you after the show. So we'll remain hopeful, and I'm glad that we're able to help you out with getting recognition that's taking place there. It is truly impressive.
Thank you. So I mentioned this briefly, and it also comes back to Shawn Michaels and the Funding Factory, and how he was reusing the materials and the ink cartridges. A lot of our construction and development at the shop, and just in general, what we do is reusing materials that are no longer wanted. And so McCreary Roofing has been around since 1890, and all over Erie, they've done every kind of project. Just to give you an idea of, like, the Children's Museum, the Arts Museum, hospitals, schools. So we're kind of everywhere. But whenever there's a construction project going on and we find out that things are just going to hit the dumpster, that's when we kind of perk up and say, this is Pat. This is not me talking. This is Pat telling me, like, hey, Rachel, I think I've got some 20-foot gates coming, and a fence or glass doors that are 2 years old, but they're getting new ones installed instead. So, I would say 90% of what we do is reused, and it's from somewhere. It has a history. And so that's the fun part, is when Pat can kind of take stuff that's just going to go to waste, and we get to enjoy it in a different way. So that's definitely in relation to Shawn and his ideas over there too.
I love that, Rachel. I'm still here, and hi. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, I want to come over and check out your development. And I know you told me about it a while ago. I never made it over there.
Yeah, let me tell you real quick, because it's almost 9:00 here coming, but we do have some events coming up that are a big deal. We're having a French dinner. It's called the Transatlantic Table, And Stephanie from Give a Crepe is hosting it with another fancy chef called Chef Bruno Brulé. And this is going to be Friday, August 9th at 6 p.m. And it's going to be inside our main bay at the shop. And so these two French chefs are going to put on a 5-course dinner for us. And tickets are for sale on Eventbrite, or you could go to our website and find the link there. So that's coming up. We have improv comedy classes. We have another girl. I didn't mention Jackie, but she's one of my close friends. She owns a small business called Creative Soul Arts. She does art wellness sessions, which are art classes for kids, teens, and adults. And this coming week, she has a teens class coming up and an 8 to 12-year-old class. Where it's art therapy. It's something really excited that we get to offer at the shop. So there's things that happen, these other small businesses and workshop instructors, they're great, they're talented, and they're coming in, and when they come in, we just get to, make it look great for them and help them do what they want. And so that's fun. We also have a lot of birthday parties we're booking with Presley and Pear, and also Christmas parties are fun. So if there are corporate businesses that want to do something a little different this year, if you're sick of going to the restaurant or going to the regular conference room, we have the space to kind of create unique environments. So that's what we like to do is we never like to do the same thing twice. So we're always looking to host people and help them have a fun time.
I see you have fall Wizarding World parties as well coming up.
That's true. That's very true. We are big Harry Potter fans, and our building speaks very well to the Wizarding World. So we tested it out last fall, and it's so good that I can't wait till somebody books a party and we can create an environment for them. We had broomsticks. We had kids on roller skates, like playing Quidditch. It was so fun. We had the platform 9 3/4 that you had to run through. So there's always fun stuff. Music is always a big part at the shop. We've hosted a lot of bands. Some of our there's two of our small businesses. They have a band together, and so they're rehearsing on Sundays. So it's a very very fun place to spend time.
Wow, very busy over there. So when we visited, you mentioned I brought my two young daughters, a little bit older than the kids you're probably bringing in for arts and crafts. But you had mentioned the need for volunteers. Do you still need them?
Yeah, and you know what? I highly encourage kids anywhere from the age of 10 to 18. If you're looking as a little job, as a volunteer, you want to learn how to work in a small business. My kids are doing it. It's fun. My 16-year-old nephew's helping. It's a fun way that kids can help kids and create this environment where it'll move forward past us.
Go ahead, Brad.
No, I'm just thinking about it, all the potential uses of your space. I'm really grateful that you're sharing all the great work you've been up to in a very short period of time. If somebody has their own caterer and own band, it sounds like they can come into your space and have the event and then leave, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing for the wedding.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah. And if you wanted partners, or if you came in and didn't know who to call and you wanted wine, or if you wanted a distillery, we have lots of local people that are familiar with coming in and working with us. But we always leave it up to our guests, and we don't want to be picky. We want you to create what's meant for your event.
Awesome.
I would encourage people to take a minute, get in touch with Rachel, and go down and see what she's been doing. How can people get in touch with you, Rachel?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm blocked and banned on Facebook, so I don't know how that happened, but I got
Uh-oh.
Were you?
That's a story for another time.
Yeah, you seem like the type of person that might get blocked on Facebook.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm on Instagram. We're called in our websites, okay? So it's theshop19.com and it's presleyandpear.com, and that'll find, you can email me, call me. We're always around. It's never hard to schedule. So even if you have an idea and just want to come and talk about it, that's always fun for us. We're up for anything.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you, Rachel, coming on the show and talking about what you're doing. I appreciate Sean and Brad coming on, and great discussions today. This is really helpful, and some of the thoughts I was having, Rachel, as we were talking, I'll get in touch with you after the show, and Brad and I, our minds kind of work in a way where we're looking for that strategic partnership and ways to, increase and do different things. And I'm sitting here, I came up with a couple of things, but we don't have the time in the show to do it today. So I'll get in touch with you later, and I'll talk to Brad about what I'm thinking. So we got about a minute left before the end of the show. Again, thank you to all the guests.
Thank you.
We'll be back here live next week. I don't have a guest lined up yet. Brad usually helps with one. We'll work on the other. Hey, Rachel, you mentioned people that potentially could come on. Do you have anybody?
I could line you up a lot of people. So let me email you some ideas.
All right. Well, I'll look for that, and then I'll send you my ideas as well.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone. Steph,
Yes.
do you want to talk briefly? I have about 30 seconds. What's the big thing you made yesterday? Where we're
We've got
the dunk the doctor.
the dunk the director.
Erie Gives on August
Erie
13th.
Gives. Yep, we've got a big event. We've got 3 bands lined up all day. We're gonna have free Smith's hot dogs.
Got to wrap it
We're
up,
gonna
Steph.
Okay. So
You're on. I got the wrap up sign. We're gonna be gone. We'll
Okay.
see you next week.